The end-of-shift whistle had just blown when I saw her walking toward the factory gate. Ashley. She was wearing the red sundress I'd bought her, teetering on a pair of heels, her face a mask of carefully applied makeup. "Nate, you're off?" she asked with a sweet smile, as if nothing had happened. I stared at her, my hands still slick with grease. "What do you want? What kind of attitude is that? We've been together for 3 years, and this is how you talk to me." Ashley's voice trembled with manufactured hurt. 3 years? I almost laughed out loud. Last night, I'd come home at 11 after a double shift to find her wrapped around my supervisor, Greg Miller. The same Greg who loved to throw his weight around on the factory floor was in my living room, kissing my girlfriend. "Where's Sophie?" I asked, ignoring her question. Her eyes darted away. "She's at home, sleeping." "Nate, can we just talk?" "About yesterday." "Nothing to talk about." I pushed past her and started walking home. Ashley hurried to keep up. "Please just listen. Greg was drunk. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I stopped and spun around to face her. "You were half undressed. That doesn't count as anything." Ashley bit her lip, tears welling in her eyes. "Nate, I know I messed up. Can't we just start over? For Sophie. For our family." "For Sophie?" Sophie wasn't even her daughter. I was the one who found the abandoned baby girl outside the factory gates 3 years ago. Ashley had agreed to help raise her, and now she was using the kid as a shield. "Get lost," I said and kept walking. Back at our apartment, Sophie was awake, sitting on the threadbare sofa with her building blocks. The moment she saw me, she scrambled to her feet and ran into my arms. "Daddy." "Hey, sweet pea. You hungry? Daddy will make you some food." I lifted her, and the anger that had been simmering inside me instantly cooled. This little girl was my entire world. "Daddy, why was Annie Ashley crying?" Sophie asked in her small, melodic voice. I paused for a beat. "She's not going to be coming around anymore." "Why?" "Because she's not a good person." Sophie nodded, as if she understood. I made her a bowl of mac and cheese, but I had no appetite myself. Staring around at the cramped, run-down rental, I felt the urge to leave this place for the first time. This town was too small, a web of familiar faces and gossip. The story about me, Ashley, and Greg would be all over the plant by tomorrow. I didn't want Sophie growing up in that kind of environment. More than that, I was just done. Done with the 12-hour shifts, done with the condescending smirks from guys like Greg, done with coming home to whispers and drama. I was only 25. Was this really all my life was going to be? "Sophie, how would you like to see the world?" I asked, stroking her hair. "Really?" Her eyes lit up. "Are we going on a vacation, Daddy?" "Not a vacation. We're moving," I said, my voice serious. "We're going to leave this place and start over somewhere nobody knows us." Sophie tilted her head, thinking, "Can we come back?" "No, we're not coming back." "Oh, okay." She wrapped her arms around my neck. "As long as I'm with you, Daddy, I'll go anywhere." Her words nearly broke me. This 5-year-old girl was the only person on earth who trusted me completely. My resolve hardened. Tomorrow, I'd hand in my resignation, pack our bags, and get Sophie the hell out of here. As for where we'd go, I hadn't figured that out yet. But it had to be far away from this town that made my stomach turn. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts from Ashley. "Nate, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. Greg just told me it's over. He was never serious about me. Are you really throwing away 3 years just like that? Please, for Sophie's sake, just give me one more chance." I didn't bother reading them all. I just deleted the thread and blocked her number. Some people, some mistakes, you don't get a second chance from. I've never been the kind of guy to second-guess myself. Once I decided to leave, there was no looking back. The next morning, I didn't go to the plant. Instead, I took Sophie to the Target on the edge of town. If we were starting a new life, she deserved some new clothes. "Daddy, no work today?" Sophie asked, swinging my hand. "No more work, sweet pea. Not here, anyway." I knelt down to look her in the eye. "We'll go to a big city, a place with lots of cool things to see." "For real?" she squealed, hopping up and down. In the kids section, I picked out a half-dozen colorful dresses for her. Watching her twirl around in front of the mirror, a sense of deep satisfaction washed over me. I've been so focused on saving every penny that I'd barely bought her anything new these past few years. I felt a pang of guilt for that. "Daddy, do you like this one?" she asked, spinning in a pink dress that looked like it belonged to a princess. "I love it. You're the prettiest girl in the world." Just then, a familiar voice cut through the air. "Nate Bowman? What are you doing here?" I turned to see Greg Miller. The 30-something supervisor, with his greasy comb-over and smug expression, always looked like he was about to give you an order. "Last I checked, it's a free country," I said coldly. Greg glanced at Sophie, then at the shopping bags in my hand. "What's all this?" Ashley was crying her eyes out all night. "Can't you just cool off and give her a break?" "What's it to you?" What do you mean? What's it to me? Greg's face tightened. Ashley's my woman. He stopped, realizing his mistake, and his expression soured. I let out a short, harsh laugh. Your woman? Fine. Then you take care of her. And tell her to stop bothering me. Bowman, don't push it, he snarled, his anger flaring. I've got some pull of the plant. You'd be smart to remember that. Oh. I straightened up to my full height. Is that a threat? Greg was a good half-foot shorter than me, but he was used to hiding behind his supervisor title. He made my life hell on the floor more times than I could count. I'm not threatening you, he said, his tone softening as he saw the look on my face. I'm just saying we should all try to be reasonable. I'm perfectly reasonable. I took Sophie's hand. Come on, sweet pea, let's go. Wait, Greg called out. Are you really quitting? I ignored him and led Sophie out of the store. Back home, I started packing. There wasn't much to take from 3 years of my life here. A few changes of clothes, some important documents, and Sophie's box of toys. Daddy, when are we leaving? Sophie asked, clutching her teddy bear. Tomorrow. Are we taking a train? A bus. It's faster. I'd already looked up the route on my phone. There was a direct Greyhound from our town to Columbus. 6 hours. A city that big, I could find work. If I was willing to hustle, we'd be fine. That afternoon, our landlord came by. Nate, heard you were moving out, he said. He was a decent guy in his 50s who'd always been fair with us. Yeah, leaving tomorrow. I handed him the month's rent. The extra can cover the deposit. He didn't take the cash. What's the rush, kid? You and Ashley have a fight. Some things you can't come back from, Rick, I said with a weary smile. Just take the money. It'll make me feel better. The landlord sighed. Well, a young guy's got to make his way. Just be careful out there, especially with the little one. I will be. Later that evening, I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ashley. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Her best friend, Brittany, stood behind her for support. Nate, can we please just talk? Ashley's voice was weak. We have nothing to talk about. I started to close the door. Brittany stuck her foot in the way. Nate, that's enough. Ashley has been begging you for days. Begging me? I scoffed. Begging me for what? To forgive her for cheating on me. Can't you be the bigger person here? Brittany said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Men are supposed to be forgiving. Besides, Greg's got his life together. It's normal for Ashley to get a little confused. I was so stunned I actually laughed. So that was their logic? Cheating was excusable if the other guy was a better prospect? Sophie, come here. I call my daughter over to my side. I want you to remember what they're saying, and I want you to promise me you'll never, ever grow up to be like them. Sophie nodded obediently. Ashley finally broke. Nate, don't be so cruel. I gave you 3 years of my life. Gave me. I found that hilarious. Every dollar you spent these last 3 years, I earned. I'm the one raising Sophie. What exactly did you give me? I was here with you, she stammered, tears streaming down her face. I have a college degree. Do you know how hard it was for me to stay in this dead-end town for you? Well, you're free now, I said coldly. You don't have to lower yourself anymore. With that, I slammed the door shut, ignoring their shouts from the hallway. Early the next morning, I carried our bags and Sophie out of the apartment for the last time. The Greyhound station was crowded and chaotic. I bought 2 tickets to Columbus. Daddy, are we really never coming back? Sophie asked, her face pressed against the window, watching the familiar streets slip by. Never. I stroked her hair. There's a better life waiting for us up ahead. As the bus pulled away, I watched her small town shrink in a rearview mirror. It held so many bitter memories. From now on, I was building a new future for Sophie. 6 hours later, we arrived in Columbus. It was the biggest city I'd ever been in, a forest of skyscrapers and a river of traffic. Wow, the buildings are so tall. Sophie gasped, her nose glued to the glass. I found a cheap motel near the bus station to use as a base and immediately started looking for work. The opportunities in a big city were endless, but so was the competition. With just a high school diploma and no special skills, finding a decent job was tough. After 3 days of pounding the pavement, I landed a job as a delivery driver for a local logistics company. It was hard work, but the pay was better than the factory. The owner, a man in his 40s named Mr. Evans, seemed like a good guy. He was sympathetic when he saw I had a kid with me. Nate, it can't be easy doing this with a little one in tow, he said. Tell you what, I might know a place you can stay. Really? Where? A friend of mine runs a coffee shop. She has an empty apartment upstairs she might rent to you cheap. My eyes lit up. That would be amazing. That evening, Mr. Evans took me to the coffee shop. It was a small, cozy place with warm lighting and the rich smell of roasted beans. The owner was a beautiful young woman in her 20s named Clara. Hi, I'm Clara Jenkins, she said, extending her hand with a smile. Nate Bowman. I shook her hand, noticing how warm it felt. And this must be Sophie, Clara said, crouching down to her level. What a cutie. Sophie was shy, hiding behind my leg. The apartment's on the second floor. Come on up and take a look, Clara said, leading us upstairs. The place wasn't big, but it was clean and bright. Most importantly, the rent was something I could actually afford. We'll take it, I said on the spot. That's great, Clara said, looking genuinely pleased. We're neighbors now. Sophie, if you ever get bored, you can come down and hang out in the shop. Once we moved in above the coffee shop, our life settled into a rhythm. I drove my routes every morning and came home in the afternoon to be with Sophie. Sometimes, Clara would bake cookies for Sophie, and the two of them became fast friends. Clara, this brownie is so yummy, Sophie would say, her eyes wide as she watched Clara work behind the counter. You think so? Well, you have to be a good girl to get another one, Clara would reply, gently ruffling Sophie's hair. Watching them, a strange, warm feeling bloomed in my chest. This felt like home. One evening, I was sitting in the empty coffee shop watching Sophie do her coloring book at one of the tables. Clara was at the counter, tallying the day's receipts. You two are really sweet together, Clara said suddenly. Sophie's not my biological daughter, I said, deciding to just be honest. I found her 3 years ago. Clara looked surprised. You found her? Yeah. She was abandoned outside the factory where I used to work. I couldn't just leave her there, so I took her home. What about her birth parents? Don't know, don't care, I said, watching the way Sophie's brow furrowed in concentration. The moment I picked her up, she was my daughter. A look of admiration flickered in Clara's eyes. You're a good man, Nate Bowman. Not really. I just did what anyone should have done. That night, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't because I was thinking about Ashley. It was because of what Clara had said. It had been a long time since anyone had called me a good man. Back in Oakhaven, everyone thought I was a fool for taking a kid that wasn't mine. But Clara, she saw it differently. This woman was nothing like Ashley. She was kind, gentle, and wonderful with Sophie. But I couldn't let myself think about it too much. I had nothing. Why did I have to fall for someone like her? Our first month in Columbus flew by. I got the hang of my delivery routes, and my income was steady. We found a great preschool for Sophie nearby, and she was thriving. Most importantly, we were starting to feel like we belonged in this city. Daddy, Clara taught me how to make sprinkles for cookies today, Sophie announced, running up the stairs. She did? Did you learn how? I asked with a smile. A little bit, Sophie said, holding her thumb and forefinger a tiny space apart. She said we'll try again tomorrow. Well, make sure you thank her. I already did, Sophie said seriously, and I told her when I grow up, I'm going to open a bigger coffee shop than hers. Her words warmed my heart. Sophie was truly happy here. This was the best decision I had ever made. That evening, I was down in the shop as usual. How's business? I asked Clara. It's okay, she said with a small smile. But there's a new problem. What's that? A big chain coffee shop just opened on the next block. They're pulling away a lot of my customers. She looked worried. I frowned. This coffee shop was our home. If her business failed, we have to move. Maybe I can help you come up with a few ideas? I offered. You. Clara looked surprised. I may not know coffee, but I've been delivering to businesses all over the city. I have a pretty good idea of what customers want. Clara's eyes lit up. Okay, I'm listening. The big chains have efficiency, but they have no soul, I began. Your advantage is that this place is cozy. It feels like a home, and lean into that. Remember your regulars' orders. Host a little open mic night or a board game night. Put up some of Sophie's drawings. Clara listened intently, nodding. Those are all great ideas, she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Thank you, Nate. Hey, we're in the same boat now. Over the next few days, Clara put my suggestions into action. She started greeting regulars by name with their favorite drink already in mind. She framed and hung a few of Sophie's brightest drawings near the counter. The effect was immediate. Customers loved the personal touch. They said it felt more like a community hub than a business. Nate, you're a genius, Clara said, beaming. Business is even better than before. It's your coffee that keeps them coming back, I said modestly. Well, you deserve a special one on the house. She insisted on making me a latte herself. As I took the cup from her, my fingers accidentally brushed against hers. For a split second, a jolt, like a tiny spark of electricity, passed between us. I think she felt it too, because a faint blush rose on her cheeks. The coffee smells great, I stammered. I hope you like it, she replied, just as flustered. That night, I tossed and turned in bed. I knew I was falling for Clara, but I didn't know what to do about it. Could I really offer her anything? A delivery driver with a kid? What right did I have to pursue a woman like her? As I was lost in thought, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and froze. It was Ashley. I thought I'd blocked her, but she must have gotten a new number. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Nate, it's me. Ashley's voice came through the line. What do you want? I said, my voice flat. I miss Sophie, she said, her voice catching. Can I please see her? No, why not? I'm practically her mother. You don't have that right, I said bluntly. Sophie is happy. She doesn't need you. Nate, you can't be this cruel. Ashley started to cry. I know I was wrong. Can't we just start over? Start over? I scoffed. So you and Greg are done? We are, she said quickly. He was just playing me. He was never serious. Hearing that only confirmed I'd made the right choice. How could I ever take back a woman like that? Ashley, listen to me, I said, my voice firm. It's over between us. It will never, ever be us again. Stop calling me. I hung up, but that call shocked me into clarity. I couldn't keep running from my feelings. If I liked Clara, I had to be brave enough to tell her. I had to at least try, right? The next evening, I took a deep breath and knocked on Claire's apartment door. Nate, what's up? It's late, she asked, looking puzzled. I need to talk to you, I said, my heart pounding against my ribs. Okay, come on in. I followed her into her living room, my pulse thundering in my ears. Want some tea? She asked. No, thanks. I took another breath to steady myself. Clara, I have something I need to say. Seeing how serious I was, she sat down on the sofa across from me. Go on. I really like you. The words tumbled out, all my courage packed into that one sentence. Clara froze, a blush instantly spreading across her face. I know I'm not what you deserve. I rushed on. I'm just a delivery guy, and I have a daughter. But I want to try. I want to give you and Sophie a real home. She looked down at her hands, saying nothing. My heart began to sink. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. I stood up, ready to retreat. Wait, she said, stopping me. I turned back. Her eyes were glistening with unshed tears. Nate, do you know why I opened the coffee shop? She asked. I shook my head. Because I wanted a home, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I grew up in foster care. My biggest dream has always been to have a warm, safe family. Her words struck a chord deep inside me. Being with you and Sophie these last few weeks, I felt a happiness I've never known before. Clara looked up at me. Sophie feels like my own daughter. And you make me feel safe. Clara, I like you too. Nate Bowman, she finally said. In that moment, it felt like the entire world had lit up. I crossed the room and gently pulled her into a hug. Thank you for giving us a chance, I whispered into her hair. You're the ones who gave me a home, she murmured into my shoulder. From that day on, we were a family. Clara was wonderful to Sophie, and Sophie adored her. Every day after preschool, the first thing Sophie would do was run downstairs to the coffee shop to find her mommy. Mommy, my teacher said my painting was the best in the class. Sophie would announce, holding up her latest creation for Clara to see. Did she? That's because my little girl is the best artist in the world, Clara would say, stroking Sophie's hair. Watching them together filled me with a happiness so profound it almost hurt. This was the life I had always wanted. My work was changing too. I had a new idea. Clara, I don't think I want to be just a delivery driver anymore, I told her one night. Oh, what are you thinking? I want to start my own business, I said seriously. A local courier service specializing in deliveries for other small businesses. Clara's eyes lit up. That's a brilliant idea. You have the experience and you know what the market needs. The only problem is the startup capital, I admitted. I have some savings. I can lend it to you, Clara said without a moment's hesitation. No way, I shook my head. I can't take your money. We're a family, Nate. There's no your money and my money, she said, taking my hand. I believe in you. I know you can make this work. Her faith in me was overwhelming. Ashley had never supported my ambitions. She'd always thought my dreams were foolish. But Clara, she believed in me completely. Okay, I said, squeezing her hand. We'll do it together. Over the next few months, I worked my routes during the day and planned the business at night. Clara was my partner in everything, helping me analyze the market and draft a business plan. Sophie was a little trooper, never causing any trouble. You can do it, Daddy, she'd cheer me on in her tiny voice. Finally, our small company was born. It was just me, a used van, but it was a start. In the first month, I landed over a dozen clients. They were small jobs, but it was real income. Nate, you're doing it. You're really doing it, Clara said, her voice thick with pride. This is our success, I told her, pulling her close. That night, the three of us sat down for dinner together. Daddy, can we stay like this forever? Sophie asked suddenly. Of course, sweet pea. I stroked her hair. We'll always be together. And will Mommy Clara be with us forever, too? I looked at Clara, who was watching us with a gentle, loving smile. Of course, she nodded. Mommy's not going anywhere. Sophie clapped her hands. Yay. At that moment, I felt like the luckiest man in the world. Just when it felt like everything was finally falling into place, disaster struck. I was out on a delivery run when my phone rang. It was Clara. Nate, you need to come back. Now, Ashley is here. Her voice was tight with anxiety. A cold dread washed over me. I turned the van around and sped back to the shop. Sure enough, Ashley was standing on the sidewalk out front. She looked thinner and her face was drawn, but she was wearing expensive-looking clothes and her makeup was perfect. Nate, you're finally here, she said, walking toward me as I got out of the van. What are you doing here? I demanded. I came to find you, of course, she said, as if it were her right. We need to talk. Just then, Clara came out of the shop, with Sophie half hiding behind her legs. Mommy, who is that lady? Sophie whispered, clinging to Clara. Hearing Sophie call Clara Mommy made Ashley's face twist into an ugly mask. Sophie, don't you remember me? It's Annie Ashley, she said, squatting down to try and hug her. Sophie shrank back. I don't know you. Sophie. Ashley's eyes filled with tears. How can you not know me? We lived together for 3 years. Sophie, why don't you go inside? Clara said gently. Okay, Mommy. Sophie scurried back into the shop. Seeing that, Ashley completely lost it. You let her call another woman Mommy? She shrieked at me. Who she calls her mother is her choice, I said flatly. I'm her mother. Ashley screamed, her voice cracking. No, you're not, I said, my voice dangerously low. You never were. We lived together for 3 years. How am I not? Lived together? I let out a bitter laugh. When did you ever change her diaper? When did you ever take her to the doctor? You can't even remember her birthday. Ashley was speechless, her mouth opening and closing with no sound. And let's not forget, you're the one who chose to cheat, I continued. Since you chose someone else, you can stay the hell out of our lives. I know I was wrong, she sobbed. Greg was a bastard. He used me and then dumped me after a few months. Nate, please, can't we start over? No. The rejection was absolute. Why? Because of her. Ashley shot a venomous glare at Clara. Don't you dare bring Clara into this. I stepped in front of Clara, shielding her. This was my choice. What's so great about her? Ashley said, her voice dripping with jealousy. She runs a stupid little coffee shop. I have money now. I can give you a better life. You have money? I was confused. From where? Ashley's eyes flickered. I got a new job. Something fell off, but I didn't have the energy to pursue it. I don't care how much money you have. I'm never going back, I said firmly. We're done. Nate, you can't do this to me, she said, grabbing my arm. After 3 years, you can just forget everything. You forgot first, I said, shaking her off. The second you got into bed with Greg, you forgot all about us. That was a moment of weakness. There are no moments of weakness, I cut her off. You thought I was poor, that I had no ambition. Now that your rich boyfriend kicked you to the curb, you want to come back to your safety net. That's not it. Go home, Ashley, I said, tired of the fight, and don't come back. Ashley looked from my resolute face to Clara's, and a truly vicious look crossed her features. Fine, I'll go, she said, straightening up. But you're going to regret this, Nate Bowman. She turned and walked away. Watching her go, I felt a deep sense of unease. It's over, Clara said, taking my hand. She won't be back. I hope you're right, I sighed. But I was wrong. Ashley would be back, and she was about to bring a world of trouble with her. 3 days later, the trouble arrived. I was at my small office sorting out invoices when the preschool called. Mr. Bowman, Sophie's mother is here to pick her up. What? My blood ran cold. Which mother? The woman, a Ms. Reed? She said she's Sophie's legal guardian, and she has the paperwork to prove it. Do not let her take Sophie. I yelled into the phone. But sir, she has a court-ordered guardianship document. I'm on my way. I slammed down the phone and sprinted to my van, tires screeching as I pulled out onto the street. My heart was hammering against my ribs. How did Ashley have guardianship papers? What was she planning? When I got to the preschool, I saw Ashley pulling a crying Sophie toward the parking lot. Sophie was screaming, Daddy, help me. Let her go. I roared, running toward them. Nate, took you long enough, Ashley said, releasing Sophie. Sophie flew into my arms. Daddy, I was so scared. It's okay, sweet pea. Daddy's here. I held her tight, turning my furious gaze on Ashley. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm taking back my daughter, she said, her voice full of smug triumph. She is not your daughter. Legally, she is. Ashley produced a folded document from her purse. This is a legally binding guardianship agreement. I'm her legal guardian. I snatched the paper and read it. I felt the world tilt. It was an official document, signed and notarized, naming Ashley Reed as the sole legal guardian of Sophie. This is a fake, I shouted. Go ahead, check with the court, Ashley said with a cold smile. Remember when we first got Sophie? You were a single guy with an unstable job. I was the one with the college education. I told you it would be easier with social services if my name was on the paperwork. You agreed. The memory hit me like a punch to the gut. She was right. At the time, I thought she was doing it because she loved Sophie. I never imagined she would use it as a weapon against me. So now you see, don't you? Ashley said, her voice dripping with venom. On paper, Sophie is my daughter. If I want to take her, there's not a damn thing you can do to stop me. You can't do this, I whispered, clutching Sophie tighter. I raise her. But the law recognizes the guardian, she said coolly. You want to keep Sophie? Then get back together with me. Otherwise, I'm taking her so far away you'll never see her again. You're insane. I couldn't believe she was using a child as blackmail. I'm not insane. I'm just trying to get my family back, Ashley said. So what's it going to be, Nate? Your daughter? Oh, that coffee shop waitress. I looked down at Sophie, who was sobbing in my shoulder. This little girl was my life. How could I let her be taken away? But how could I betray Clara? Daddy, I don't want to go with her, Sophie cried, wrapping her arms tightly around my neck. I want to stay with you and Mommy Clara. Her words twisted the knife in my heart. I'll give you one day to think about it, Ashley said, checking her watch. I want your answer by this time tomorrow. She turned and walked away, leaving me on the sidewalk, holding my crying daughter, my world completely shattered. When we got home, Clara took one look at our faces and knew something terrible had happened. She threatened you? Clara asked softly. I nodded, my voice hoarse as I explained the guardianship papers. Clara listened in silence, her face growing pale. Nate, you have to go back to her, she said finally. What? I thought I'd heard her wrong. I said, go back to Ashley, Clara repeated, her voice steady despite the tears welling in her eyes. You have to do it for Sophie. No, I'm not leaving you, I said fiercely. But you can't lose Sophie, she pleaded, her own tears now falling freely. She needs you. You need me too. I'm a grown woman, Nate. I can handle it. Clara stroked Sophie's hair. But she's just a little girl. She can't lose her father. Clara, this isn't your fault, she said, shaking her head. I was just naive to think we could be happy forever. Seeing her cry, my own heart broke into a million pieces. But I couldn't bear the thought of Sophie being ripped away from me. It was an impossible choice. But I had to make one. I didn't sleep a wink that night. Sophie clung to me in her sleep, whimpering. Daddy, don't leave me, she mumbled, lost in a nightmare. I stroked her back, the pain in my chest so sharp it was hard to breathe. The next morning, I made my decision. Clara, I'm going to talk to Ashley, I told her. Okay, she said, her voice quiet and resigned. But I'm not getting back together with her, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I'm going to find another way. A flicker of hope returned to Clara's eyes. I left Sophie in her care and went to find Ashley. She was staying in an upscale hotel downtown. Made up your mind? She asked with a triumphant smirk when she opened the door. Let's talk terms, I said, getting straight to the point. What terms? How much money do you want? I asked. Ashley stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. Nate, do you really think money can solve everything? Isn't that what you're after? I said coldly. Name your price. I don't want money, she said, stepping close to me. I want you. That's not going to happen. Then get ready to say goodbye to Sophie. How can you be so heartless? I stared at her. Sophie trusted you. How can you stand to hurt her like this? I'm not hurting her. I'll be a great mother to her, Ashley said. As long as you do what I say. I took a deep breath. Give me a week. 3 days, she countered. If you don't agree in 3 days, I'm taking Sophie and leaving this city for good. I didn't say another word. I just turned and left. Back home, I told Clara everything. I have 3 days to figure something out, I said, taking her hands in mine. Nate, what if we call the police? Clara suggested. It's no use, I shook my head. Legally, she has the upper hand. Then what do we do? An idea began to form. I'm going to see a lawyer. There has to be another way. The next day, I consulted with several lawyers. The advice was grim. Without proof that Ashley was an unfit mother, the courts would likely side with her. Just as I was about to give up, one of the lawyers asked a question that changed everything. You said she came into a lot of money recently? He asked. Yeah, and she was vague about where it came from. You should report her. If her wealth comes from illegal activities, the court would absolutely reconsider her fitness as a guardian. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. Of course, Ashley's money. I immediately started digging. I called a few old friends back in Oak Haven and learned that Ashley had been mixed up with some shady characters, promising huge returns on risky investments. She was part of a scam. I gathered all the information I could find and took it to the police. On the third day, just as Ashley arrived at the coffee shop to collect her answer, 2 police officers approached her. Ms. Ashley Reed, you're a person of interest in an ongoing investigation into investment fraud. We need you to come with us. The color drained from Ashley's face. You've made a mistake. I didn't. We have substantial evidence, ma'am. Please cooperate. Great. As I watched them lead her away, a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. Sophie ran into my arms. Daddy, is the bad lady gone for good? Yes, sweet pea, I said, kissing her forehead. She's gone for good. A month later, a judge officially revoked Ashley's guardianship and named me as Sophie's sole legal guardian. Daddy, are we really free? Sophie asked. Yes, sweet pea. We're free. Does that mean you can marry Mommy Clara now? Hearing that, Clara and I both started to laugh. It sure does, I said, looking at Clara. If Mommy will have me. Of course I will, Clara said, her eyes shining with happy tears. In that moment, we were finally truly a family. 6 months later, Clara and I got married. It wasn't a big, fancy wedding, just a simple ceremony in a park with our closest friends. Sophie, wearing a beautiful little dress, was our flower girl. Daddy, Mommy, you have to love each other forever and ever, she instructed us solemnly. We will, Clara and I said in unison. Life after the wedding was everything I had ever dreamed of. My courier company grew steadily, and soon I had a small fleet of vans and a dozen employees. Clara's coffee shop was so popular, she opened a second location across town. Sophie started elementary school and loved it, making new friends and amazing her teachers. Daddy, when I grow up, I want to have my own company too, Sophie announced one evening. You do? I'll support you 100%, I said, ruffling her hair. What kind of company should I have? How about a company that makes everyone happy? Clara suggested with a smile. That's a great idea. Sophie clapped. Looking at the smiles on their faces, I knew every hardship, every struggle had been worth it. This was all I ever wanted. A wife who loved me, a daughter who was my whole world, and work that I was proud of. The pain and confusion I felt when I left Oakhaven seemed like a lifetime ago. Without that journey, I would never have found this happiness. That night, Clara and I sat on our small balcony, looking up at the stars. Nate, do you have any regrets? She asked quietly. Regrets about what? About the choices you made. About all of it. I thought for a moment. If I regret anything, it's only one thing. What's that? I regret not meeting you sooner, I said, taking her hand. Clara smiled. Me too, but it's not too late, I said. We have our whole lives ahead of us. Yes, she whispered. Together. That night, I had the most beautiful dream. The three of us were on a beach. Sophie was building a sandcastle, and Clara was reading a book beside me. I was just sitting there with her, watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in orange and purple. Daddy, what are you thinking about? Sophie asked, running over to me. I'm thinking about our future. What's it going to be like? It's going to be amazing, I said with absolute certainty. When I woke up, I realized it wasn't a dream. It was my life. I had a wife who loved me, a wonderful daughter, and a life we had built together. From that night, I discovered the betrayal. To this moment of pure happiness, I had come so far. And every single step was worth it, because every step led me here. Home. 2 years later, on a bright spring day, an unexpected letter arrived. It was from a correctional facility. Ashley had written from prison, asking to see Sophie. What could she possibly want? Clara asked, her voice laced with worry. Maybe she just wants to apologize, I said, looking at the letter. She says she wants to see Sophie one last time before she's released. You're not going to agree, are you? I hesitated. As much as Ashley had hurt us, she had been a part of Sophie's life for 3 years. Let's let Sophie decide, I said finally. That evening, I talked to Sophie. Sweet pea, do you remember Annie Ashley? I asked gently. Sophie thought for a moment. A little bit. The lady who used to live with us. That's right. Well, she wants to see you. Would you be willing to do that? She tilted her head, thinking for a long time. Will she try to take me away again? No, I promised her. She can't do that anymore. Then, okay, Sophie nodded. But you and Mommy have to come with me. Of course we will. A week later, we found ourselves in the visitation room of a state prison. Ashley looked worn down. She was much thinner, and there were streaks of gray in her hair. The moment she saw Sophie, her eyes filled with tears. Sophie, you're so big, she choked out. Sophie was a little scared, hiding behind my leg. Sophie, I wanted to say, I'm sorry, Ashley said, her voice cracking. I did a lot of terrible things. I hurt you, and I hurt your dad. Sophie didn't say anything, just held my leg tighter. Are you happy? Ashley asked. Very happy, Sophie whispered. I have a mommy and a daddy, and lots of friends. That's good. A teary smile touched Ashley's lips. Sophie, you have to promise me you'll always be happy, okay? Okay, Sophie nodded. And listen to your mom and dad. Study hard in school. I will. Ashley then looked at Clara and me. Thank you for giving her a real family. It's what she deserves, Clara said softly. Nate, I owe you an apology more than anyone, Ashley said, meeting my eyes. I was so stupid and selfish. I hurt you, and I hurt our little girl. It's in the past, I said calmly. Can you forgive me? I thought for a moment. I forgive you, but that doesn't mean I'll forget. I understand, she nodded. I just want you all to be happy. On the drive home, Sophie asked me, Daddy, why did Annie Ashley say sorry? Because she did something wrong, I explained. And when people do wrong things, they have to face the consequences, and they have to apologize. So, if I do something wrong, I have to say sorry too? That's right. Okay, I get it, she said seriously. Life returned to its peaceful rhythm after that visit. But the experience taught me something important. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you. Only by letting go of the hate can you truly move forward and embrace the future. Another year passed. My company became one of the most reliable local logistics services in the region. Clara's coffee shop empire continued to grow. Sophie was thriving in second grade, a bright and happy girl. Daddy, are we the happiest family in the world? She asked me one day. I think we just might be, I said with a smile. Will we be this happy forever? We will, I said with confidence. As long as we love each other, we'll always be happy. Then I'll love you and Mommy forever, she said, throwing her arms around my neck. And we will always love you, sweet pea. That night, I stood on a balcony looking out at the city lights. 5 years ago, I had arrived here with Sophie and nothing else to my name. Now, I had a family, a home, and a life beyond my wildest dreams. It was all because of one brave decision. To leave the past behind and build a new future. Sometimes, an ending is really just the beginning. When you have the courage to say goodbye to what's broken, the future opens its arms to you. I was so grateful I'd made the right choice, and so thankful for Clara, who had walked this path with me. Our story was still being written, but I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that whatever came next, we would face it together. Because we had love, we had a home, and we had each other, and that was more than enough.